This shit that ice cold, Michelle fight for that white gold. This one for them hood girls, them good girls, straight masterpieces. Styling, wildin', living it up in the city. Got Chuck's on with Saint Laurent, gotta kiss myself, I'm so pretty. I'm too hot damn.
Happy New Year, Ithaca! I hope you're ready for another exciting installment of Ihstv. I'm Matthew Lynn, and this semester we've got a brand new news crew. Some are trying out new positions, while others are staying right where they are. Joining the anchor team is none other than Mateo Gonzalez, and he's ready to... Mateo, what are you doing? This is serious stuff right here. You gotta take, it's not spring, take those sunglasses off.
Okay, I will.
What's going on?
I lost. Hello everyone! This semester we are going to show all of you the messiest, the craziest, and the more interesting things that are happening here in Ithaca. I'm Mateo, and this week we got a great show for you all. We are showing off a few more of our White House entries, showcasing pieces from both the English media and the digital media classes.
We sure will, Mateo. First, we'll be showing you all the internal conflict that Yale faces just when holding a penny.
Second, we'll see how students like you can get academic help around the school with Rishi and Jesse.
And after that, we'll show you how different members of the community came together after the tractor-trailer crash into the Simeon's restaurant.
Then, Ethan and Scott take us around Ithaca High School and shows you how we all can make the difference right down the hall.
Penultimately, Olivia and April show us how the little things that make the big differences.
Finally, but not least, to end it all, Malam and Khalil show us how a down-on-his-luck musician can succeed. It's just a matter of listening our surroundings to make us a new friend.
We've got a hard-hitting list of pieces to show you all, so we'd better get a move on. Although there's hardly any calc involved, Noah Davis and Yella Shukin show us what you can do with debates of change. Do you take a penny? Do you leave a penny? Do you do both and one or not the other? Let's find out.
Hey man, it's our money. We worked hard for that. Don't give it to them.
They need it more than you do. Don't be selfish.
Just think, a penny saved is a penny earned. If we hold on to it now, we can spend it on something that we want later. Ice cream, coffee, soda. Think of the pleasures.
Really? Soda? You don't need any of that. It will help somebody else way more than it will help you. I mean, what are you honestly going to spend it on? Junk food?
Are you kidding? Those lazy jerks should get their own jobs, not take our hard-earned cash.
You are in a privileged position. Spread your wealth to those in need.
Spread the wealth? Ah, it's thinking like that that'll put us in the poorhouse. Do you really want to live off food stamps?
Giving your excess will barely affect you at all. Think of all the good it could do. You could help a small child just in the start of its life achieve all that it ever wished to achieve. You could bring a smile to the face of a depressed old man.
So what? You'll never see them. and never know what you did. Make the
right
right
choice.
choice.
Whoa! I really think that with 1 penny you can make the difference. But I think it's more important to get students to help each other.
Indeed, Mateo. Rishi Verma and Jesse Liu star Tommy Straudeman as a student in need at IHS. They show us how students can still be successful and get help. Or maybe not sometimes. I do have to say, that is one of the funnier pieces I have seen this year that the class has produced. I don't know how they got that instant freeze water bottle, though.
Yes, it's amazing how everything is connected. Now, Cameron Burbank and Emily Powers of the 5th period English Digital Media show us how willing citizens of the Ithaca community came together after the accident of Simon's restaurant.
That was truly a tragedy. I hope it does the Commons justice.
8 months after the accident of Simeon's restaurant at the corner of State and Aurora, the heart of the Ithaca community, the heartbreak can still be felt.
On June 20th, 2014, a truck came barreling down State Street loaded with cars. Unfortunately, it had lost its brakes, and in an effort not to injure anybody, it tried to make the turn at the bottom of the hill onto Aurora Street. Sadly, it could not make it, and the truck ended up crashing through the wall into Simeon's restaurant, into dozens of unexpected customers. Over a dozen people were injured, and there was one casualty. Shortly after the incident, emergency workers responded, and in an effort to keep the scene safe and remove all victims from the building, spent almost 24 hours at the scene.
During the tragedy of June 20th, 2014, individuals and organizations came together to give back in an effort to assist the families affected and the emergency workers at the scene. The community gave baby supplies, money, imperishable foods, and clothes, anything that they could do to help. The restaurants nearby, despite being Simeon's competitors, helped supply the emergency workers with food and drinks to make it through the night. The accident made news all over the nation. It was heartbreaking to hear that a mother of only age 27 was taken away from her little girl. A sister was taken away from her brother. A fiancé taken away from her love, and a daughter taken away from her mother. The heartbreak brought together a community, and they founded the Amanda Bush Foundation. In only 6 short months, $25,000 was raised for her baby.
Recently, the owners of Simeon's have announced plans to rebuild the restaurant, though the events of June 20th will never be forgotten. They go to show what a strong community Ithaca, New York has built through supporting one another and giving back to each other in times of need.
Accidents are a tragedy, but in the end, we cannot control it. But what we can control is the reaction of the people after the accident. I think they covered it well.
I'm glad they did. Now, although it may not be a party in the USA, Ethan Scott of 5th period goes clubbing around IHS, and he shows us how we can all participate right in our own school community.
Just because of like the size of that thing. Now, if it's something you're like, it's happening every single day, she's calling me, she's leaving second, like that's a different level of stuff as well.
Okay, because the impression I was under was that.
But what I would also try to do, like at that point, like I'm trying to say, like, okay, so how can I do conflict mediation? How can I set this right?
I participate in Red Cross Club because I want to make a difference in people's lives.
I participate in the Tatler because I want the school body to be informed, because that's what life is about, man.
I participate in Red Cross Club because I want to give that somebody a chance to survive and a chance to live.
I'm in Swiss because I love it, because it's a great community full of people who share my ideas and who believe the same things about equality as I do.
Mr. Ballard has been an integral part of what makes the club so great.
Mr. Ballard, our leader of the club, he's always there every Tuesday at our meetings, at the blood drives. He's taking time out of his life, out of his family time, and he shows us the true meaning behind Red Cross.
I came to Swiss Club because they were in need of an advisor last year, and the officers described what the club was about. And despite the fact that I was not really very well versed in feminism or feminist theory, I was really impressed by the passion and the devotion and dedication that the officers showed. As a result, it's been a fantastic group to work with. I love seeing that the group has evolved and is becoming more diverse. And I think that I am part of this group because it makes me a better person, so that's a good thing. Those aren't gang signs, those are just poses.
Wow! There are so many and different things to do in IHS.
Yes, there are, and that doesn't even include, all the sports and music programs as well.
But don't forget the random acts of kindness.
Really? What do you mean?
Well, Olivia Salomon and April Carroll show us that the small things we do every day have a big impact on others' life.
I'm very intrigued. Let's take a look.
Just like little things from saying hi to people and getting a nice hi back or a smile, or it's nice to see you today, or you look great. Those little things mean a lot to me. They make me feel good. So.
So one time when I was at summer camp, I got really sick and I had to go to the nurse. And one of my friends took time out of their day to come bring me breakfast. And you know, it's hard because it's camp and you're away from your parents. So it's just, sometimes I think about when I'm sick and I feel better because somebody cared a lot about me.
I guess like one time that I remember is that I left my credit card at I think it was a restaurant I was at, and like I had no idea. I like left and I was like walking out and I was like kind of far down, and my like server like ran after me and like ran all the way down to like give me the card back, which I totally like didn't even know I left there. So I guess it's like shows that like the little things matter, and that like if I didn't know I left it there, it would have been a whole big deal, but like for them to like go through that effort, and I don't know them and stuff, that was pretty nice. So that's a really good story. Yeah.
Feedback is great, and I love working for my community, and when people tell me that I've done a good job for them. We put on a festival called Ithaca Loves Teachers every year, where we entertain between 4,000 and 5,000 teachers who come to Tompkins County. We get a lot of thanks for that, and that's a great instance because hundreds of people say thank you, and those are the people who brought all of us to where we are today. So.
This guy I know, I asked him what flavor his Pop-Tart was, and he gave me his Pop-Tart, and it ended up being, what flavor was it? Frosted sugar cookie flavor, which is actually surprisingly good. I really like Pop-Tarts, but I really like the person who gave it to me.
I think it just gets back to community, and we all live in a community, and that's one of the nice things about a town the size of Ithaca is you can really feel the community. You run into people in various different walks of your life and see different aspects of them, and you know, one little thing leads to another. It's a friendly place, and you get that stuff all the time here.
Wasn't that great?
Call me Gulliver, it was great. Anyways, to wrap up our show today, we've got Malama and Khalil showing us how music can change a person's whole outlook.
That sounds like a Disney movie. Well, okay, let's see it.
Hey, I think I've heard that song before.
Yeah, it's got Daniel Johnston.
How's it go?
True love will find you in the end.
Okay.
You'll find out just who was your friend. Don't be sad, I know you will. Don't give up until find you in the end. True love will find you in the end. You'll find out just who was your friend. Alright, yeah. Don't be sad, I know you will. Don't give up until true love will find you in the end. True love will find you in the end. True love will find you in the end. Yeah, man. Yeah, dude. Good work. That was good. Yeah. You're natural. Don't be sad, I know you will. Don't give up until true love finds you in the end. True love will find you in the end.
Wow, Malama's really moving his head back and forth. And as a surprise guest today, we do have Malama in our studio with us. How are you today, Malama?
I'm great, thank you. Yeah.
So, Malama, what inspired you to make this piece?
Well, when we were first given the assignment, I was really interested in the topic, which was sort of like giving back and community and stuff like that. And so I wanted to think of a sort of simple little thing that anyone could do that would sort of brighten someone's day or even improve someone's life. And the idea just sort of came to me in that sense.
Good.
And you both and Cleo, you chose to do that through music and the guitar?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We both have pretty similar interests in terms of music and film, and so I approached him about it, and he was very interested. And he also plays guitar, so that really worked out very well.
So you think you have a future in the music area?
I don't know about the music area. I'd love to make music videos. That'd be fun. I do think, though, that film is sort of where I'm headed. But music is definitely something that I love, and if I could find a way to merge them more often, I will.
We would like to see more of those.
Absolutely, yeah.
And finally, Malama, what's next for you? What kind of other ideas do you have?
Well, I really don't know. I do know that for my WISE project, I'm going to be making a movie, so be on the lookout for that. That'll be coming out before the end of the school year.
Good.
Yeah.
We'll have a viewing party.
Hopefully.
So, what's nice having you here?
It was nice of you to have me. Thank you so much. Yeah,
thank you,
I enjoyed
Malama.
myself. Yeah, no problem.
See you the next project.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'll see you.
It was very good singing from both Malama and Cleo. What a nice way to conclude our show.
I like the whole thing. It was all really moving. We had Jayla and Noah discuss choice and ethics. Then we had Jesse and Rishi shows the journey of a student in need.
I still really like that one. What did we have after that? Oh, right. We had Cam and Emily. They both used their CAM skills to examine the response to the Simeon's accident, showing how citizens can give back. Then Ethan showed us how we students can give back right in our own school.
That was really nice. Then, oh, this street, what? Okay, that was really nice. Then we had April and Olivia show us the importance of the little things.
Like DR, DT, and DX?
Stupid in math in this.
Matthew is already up in all of this.
Okay, finally, to the end of the show, Malama and Khalil show us how music can help everyone.
That was pretty groovy. Well, everyone, we were glad to share with you a few more of the White House projects on giving back. We hope that you, too, will also be back with us soon.
We hope you enjoyed the show. I'm Mateo.
And I'm Matthew. Stay frosty, IHS. We'll see you next time.
Isn't the recycling at the high school like bullshit?
Yeah.
Where have you heard that from? Who told you that?
Everyone.
Like various people around.
Do you think it's true?
Yeah, because I don't think they actually.
I heard that everything goes to the same place.
Yeah, that's
Part
what I
of
heard.
me wants to believe that it's not true, but
it's probably true.
Someone told me that we have the separate containers and people sort of throw them in separate containers, but then when it's getting sent away, they put it all in the same thing and it all goes to the trash.
Recycling, I've heard that the recycling also does not, you know, get to, like, it's not actually recycled, it's just mixed in with the, like, trash. Yeah.
Do you believe that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, after the composting thing, like, my expectations are pretty low for sustainability in IHS.
I know we collect recyclables and put them in the hall.
What happens after that?
It used to be that the BOCES people would come pick it all up, like once a week or so. But like all things, the programs change over time, so I don't know how much of it's actually going to a recycling center at this point.
Do you think that students at the school recycle?
Well, I mean, it's a huge problem. From people I've heard that actually the recycling and the compost and trash actually go into one large pit for trash instead. Though I do feel as if the students did recycle and the teachers had recycling bins in all their classrooms, and we actually did enforce that and actually go through with that, I feel like it could really help the environment. Because we are a huge school, we're 1,600 people, and 1,600 people recycling can really make a difference, especially in the environment. Well, no one has actually confirmed it to me personally. It's like just a rumor that I've heard within teachers and students in this school. Though I have heard it from teachers themselves, actually.
That's what we're going to talk about, kind of. Officially there is no policy.
But in practice, what do you think?
In practice, I guess kind of what we learned is that the janitors, they'll put things where they need to go, but they're not going to sort through all the bins in the high school. They're just going to put the recycling in a recycling thing, and the trash in a trash thing.
Yeah.
That's just kind of what we got. It's not the best answer, but
so
after talking to the head custodian, it's
the recycling that is, if I put something in the recycling bin, that will go to a recycling center, not a landfill.
Theoretically, yes, but I've heard accounts of teachers saying that they see their recycling bins go straight into the trash.
Whether or not there's recycling is one of those classic urban legends that everybody's like, oh, I saw the custodians garbage throwing it out. If the recycling is really contaminated, they do have to throw it out. And when they collect it in the carboys. So it's the same equipment as is used for garbage. So people see that and go, oh, they're throwing it out. But it's really the carboy that's got all the recycling and they're carting it around.
My name is Emily Powers, and I'm in a group for government class to help the student body at Ithaca High School recycle.
What did Jeff Holcomb say to you when you talked to him?
He didn't say anything specifically to me because I wasn't the one who talked to him, but in the group he said that if the recycling is contaminated, then it all just goes in the trash and the recycling, and they don't know recycling of bottles. He didn't talk about how much contamination is needed in a bottle, or in a can.
So in terms of official policy, as chair of the policy committee, I can say that there is not an official policy on recycling. Doesn't mean that we don't have a practice or things that we do in terms of recycling. So I guess I'll let Paul respond to the second part of the question.
For instance, in an office, we'll separate it and there'll be different types of recycling in those different canisters. And then what'll happen is the custodian will separate them out. Oftentimes, I know at the high school, their practice is to use a brute can, which is the big 55-gallon one on wheels. Use that, a separate one for paper and cardboard usually they just tie together. And then the other one would be for garbage. And it is sorted out in different places. I mean, some custodians sort them out in the room. Other custodians bring it down to a general area, which is receiving down here, and they'll sort it out there. Currently, the reason the district does not do single stream is that the district does realize revenue from BOCES who picks up cardboard and paper. And that's just a practice. That isn't, there is, like Sean said, there is no policy for that, but that has been the practice for many years.
So in each classroom, should there be a separate container for paper and cardboard and then a separate container for bottles?
Yes. The long and short of it is yes, there should be.
We were told that none of the bottles and cans were recycled, that they were all thrown away.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, because what our issue oftentimes is the bottles that are mixed in with the paper and the contamination that exists, and what will happen in that case, because then we take it up to BOCES, it'll be separated up there. So anything that's in a proper container and that we can take to BOCES, we certainly do. And the same with the tin. It used to be just tin cans, and that doesn't, we don't get as many as we used to.
The only time that it's something what could potentially become recyclable doesn't end up in recycling is if it's so contaminated that they won't accept it for recycling. In which case it has to go as a municipal waste.
How would something like that, how would I guess a bottle become contaminated?
Well, if you look at milk containers, the milk cartons for the lunchroom, if those were dumped in with the paper will not be acceptable as a revenue source, and it can't be taken to recycling, it would have to go to solid waste.
The custodial staff do recognize if it's too contaminated, it's going to go in the garbage, because it doesn't bode well for us with Cubic compost, and we want to make sure that's a good working relationship, so we don't want to send anything that's over contaminated. So if any is thrown out, it's thrown out strictly because it's contaminated and can't be composted, because we do have, at each individual building, we do have compost pickups. But I do know that from communications that I've seen from Cubic compost that we need to do a better job of making sure it's not contaminated.
I've put a little bit of thought into this. Maybe we could have volunteers, students, or teachers stand next to the bins and help students that are throwing away stuff to put them in the right places.
We also did some statistical research around Cornell and other things around Cornell, and we found that an average person each day generates about 4 pounds of trash, and 75% of that trash is actually recyclable. So we'd like to find different ways of how to recycle that, and we took a survey and asked the students if they actually care about recycling, and 85% of the students said that they really do care about it. And so we were looking for different ways that we could actually bring recycling into it, and we found we need more bins throughout the school. So that's why we're asking you guys if you guys have any resources or any way to help us to be able to get more bins to put around throughout the building.
For anyone watching this, I'll address you directly. It's up to you to actually make some sort of difference in the high school, because the people here are doing what they can. It is going to places to be sorted, but without your help, things become contaminated, things become ineligible to be recycled, to be composted. So it really comes down to the student and staff engagement in recycling and compost.
Yeah, like, as I said, you're gonna throw that in the recycle bin.
I'm not.
I bet you will, because...
Are you kidding me?
I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
My name is Joaquin Lira, and I grew up in the southeastern corner of Arizona, right on the Mexican border. And you know, when I was young and when I was going to school and growing up, things were much more different. There was a lot more discrimination against all minorities, and especially Mexican Americans in the Southwest. I myself should have been able to go to school in elementary school right across the street from my house, but they wouldn't allow me in that school because I didn't speak English.
Growing up, you know, and being a younger person and a person of color, I definitely, you know, had my own obstacles. I went to a school that was in a suburban part of Rochester, New York, and that definitely had its ups and downs. Like I definitely, at times, felt very on the peripherals and very like on the outskirts of some of my peers.
Being a person of color in this country, I understand that to mean, and that's from experience as well as just, I guess, generational information and knowledge and historical events. I understand that to mean that things are not always going to be easy, things are not always going to be fair, that you may have to work harder to achieve the same levels as your white counterparts. And I understand that to mean that people may have a general belief or feeling about you based on the color, you know, of your skin or my skin. And in terms of how I'm treated, I've definitely experienced moments of discrimination. I have definitely been a victim of stereotyping.
As a person of color, there are many challenges in America because of historical realities, but that doesn't mean that we can't move forward and take advantage of who we are.
I have not experienced a whole lot of discrimination personally, and it may be because there are differences, right, among minorities in terms of the way that they are treated and the history in this country. I'm from an East Indian background, and so we were relatively newcomers to this country, and so I will say the time when I felt the most uncomfortable was around the time of the September 11 attacks, because that's when people were so afraid in this country, and they were afraid of anyone who looked vaguely Muslim. And my birthplace is actually Saudi Arabia, although I'm of Indian descent, and so there have been times, you know, associated with terrorism when I felt very uncomfortable because of the color of my skin and because of my facial features. Concerned that people might make judgments about me.
I feel that as far as me being a black Afro-American, it's hard for us because the thing about it is looking around the world today on the aspect of how we're being treated, because things that's going on, it's like if we do something, you know, we get killed, we get slandered, we get abused, and then you look at somebody who's another race of being Caucasian, it's like a slap on the hand, like, oh, it's alright, you know, nothing don't happen to him and stuff like that.
I'm definitely concerned about my son seeing footage on the news, about young men of color and how they are treated by the police and how they're generally treated with suspicion and the brutality that a lot of people of color face in situations where the police, you know, there's some sort of a standoff and what looks like unfair treatment and really cruel treatment. There are always two sides to the story, and there are certainly the perspective of the police when they perceive themselves to be in danger. But I do worry about my son as a young man of color. You know, what would happen if he were in a situation where he didn't perhaps respond the way he should, you know, when asked to do something by an authority figure or by the police. So yeah, I worry about that, especially as a young man, very much.
Your question was, how does it make me feel as a parent of a child? And I have a son, so that makes me feel a little more, I guess, because I feel like there is discrimination, and then I feel like there is, you know, racial bias and discrimination towards men of color. And I have a son, so I have a male of color, and it makes me feel a lot of ways. I have a number of emotions regarding my feelings when considering my son or my nephews or men of color in general or people of color. We've had some recent incidences where the men of color have not been given, in my opinion, the same leniencies, the same flexibilities that non-men of color would have been given or have been given historically.
I am definitely concerned. I feel a sense of sadness that, you know, my son and my daughter might experience negativity based on their skin tone. They might meet resistance. They may very well hit obstacles. They might even, you know, I would hate to think this, but they might even, you know, I mean, I would hate to think that something negative physically would happen to them, and I hope that that never happens. I shudder to think of it, but it is a possibility. It scares me a little bit, but I also know that for my kids and our family, my husband and I, we're raising our children to, and this is all you can ever hope for, is to always kind of understand the broader social context and to be mindful that others don't always perceive you in a positive way based on your skin tone, and that you kind of have to think ahead of that. You have to be smarter than that.
I would hope that my children understand the history of this country as it relates to being a minority, and that they can take advantage of any opportunity that's brought forth to them because of who they are. Challenges are natural and they are going to exist, but it's important for them to realize the value of who they are and what they can add to a society because of their particular culture.
There's still work to be done, and that work needs to be done on all levels, on a youthful level and on an adult level, on an intellectual level, on a societal level, and on a policy and practicum level. That's how it makes me feel.
My name is Kelly Meyer.
Carmen Guidi.
My name is Mike Foster, and I can say I'm the chaplain and the shift leader for the rescue mission.
And what do you do as a profession? My profession is I'm the morning anchor, producer, reporter at WENY News.
Yeah, I would like to say that
slip away. Tomorrow ain't here today.
All right, so if I were to dress like a homeless person for Halloween, what would I wear?
I started to ask questions in Ithaca about where I could serve. You know, to be honest, I didn't even realize there were any homeless in Ithaca.
If you were to dress as a homeless person for Halloween, what would you put on?
I guess very dirty clothes, like something dirty. And I don't know, it just all kind of, it just felt like I needed to do something.
Slip away. Tomorrow ain't here today.
Just tell me a little bit about yourself, you know, how you got to that point in your life. And what do you do now to help with the homeless population?
Well, we've been covering Ithaca's homeless encampment known as the Jungle for years here on WENY. Police in Ithaca are investigating the death of a 53-year-old man.
Another death in Ithaca's homeless encampment known as the Jungle is raising concerns about homelessness.
Okay, there we go. All right, and cut.
I grew up in church, and I did not like it. I spent a lot of time homeless in my late teens and my early 20s. I come from being an alcoholic, coming up on 7 years sober. Being able to experience hope in life, being able to experience life being something that I never thought that it could be, I have to bring that to other people. There are people down there that are working, that have done service in the military, that have been in combat, and work full-time jobs, and they just don't make enough to survive. One of my friends down there wound up there because of an injury. He owned his own business working on cars, and there was a air pump where a piece blew out of the air pump and it hit him in the side of the head. Not having enough money for medical insurance, it went untreated, and there's a span of about 3 months that he just doesn't remember. And it was the damage from that medical injury that put him in that situation. A couple in particular who they have a vehicle. They were saving their money and they were making steps to get out of where they were at, and they had a vehicle. And then they got ticketed for having their vehicle down there because technically it's trespassing. So in going to move the vehicle, the driver's license had expired. So then they impounded the vehicle. So then they had to take all the money they had saved for the apartment to now pay for the vehicle to get out of impound.
All the time that we keep, years, months, weeks, I gotta find the right mindset for me. 'Cause time ain't free.
I always enjoyed just, public speaking and just, being the one to like read out loud in class, like just little things like that, or shooting my own video on family vacations, and then just putting those things together as I grew up and in high school took a journalism course. And it was really like just a suggestion on my SATs that said, oh, maybe try journalism as your college path. When I was in college, I went to school in Philadelphia at Temple University, and I would, senior year I lived in the city, so I would take the subway home at night. And I always stayed late editing and things like that, so I would take the last subway home, and I'd be alone, and I would get off, and I would see people just like laying there on the subway or sleeping there, and just, and I would be by myself. And I would remember being scared. One of my first stories was covering the opening of a homeless shelter for men. to kind of get back on their feet. And when I did the story there and talked with specifically, there was one man, and I don't remember his name, but him sharing his story of like how he became homeless and how this place was helping him get back on his feet, that just, it made me realize that they're people. And when I was in college, I ran by them like there was a monster to be afraid of.
Moving a million miles a minute. Slow, slow, boom.
Early on, it was just coming in to the, to the jungle, which is a homeless community. And I got involved with some meals for the homeless in Ithaca, and then from there learned that there was a population of homeless people in Ithaca. I actually took a mission trip to Haiti, and my eyes were open to those that are a lot less fortunate than myself. And when I got back here, I really wanted to do something in my, kind of in my backyard to help those less fortunate than myself. So that moved into contacting the Syracuse Rescue Mission and getting them to come down and see the situation, and eventually they actually came down and opened up a shelter, actually 2 shelters now, with the Court Street place. We actually helped to buy the house on Court Street and remodeled that. So there's 10 men that can live there in a supportive housing unit, and then the emergency shelter got taken over by the rescue mission, and then I started an organization called Second Wind Cottages, which we're building small homes for the homeless a few miles away.
What I would love the community to get is don't let fear make your decisions. Get to know people and then see how they can best be helped.
Good morning, Emily. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
You're welcome. What is the current sport that you're involved with, and why do you play this particular sport?
I'm a swimmer at IHS, and I swim because I've swum for 7 years and I enjoy it.
Good morning. How are you doing, Anna Danner?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Quite swell. What is the current sport that you're involved with, and why do you play this particular sport?
I play soccer, and I play because I like it and it's fun. My friends play.
I was wondering, know, what is the current sport that you're involved with, and why do you play this particular sport?
I do ballet. And why I do it? I really like it, and it's fun.
Do you find balancing school and athletics challenging, and how do you balance the two?
Sometimes it can be really challenging, you know, during varsity season. We have really long practices and a lot of homework, but I think it's manageable. It can be challenging because you have to spend a lot of time practicing and stuff, and then you have a lot of homework, but but it's hard to balance it. You have to stay up late and get up early to do extra homework and stuff, but you get it done. Yeah, sometimes. I mean, ballet, other things, a lot of other things. It's tough, but hey, I just don't do some of my homework. That's fine. Don't tell my parents that.
Are you planning on pursuing this sport throughout college, and how do you think it will affect your life in the future?
Well, currently I think I want to swim in college, but I'm not quite sure. And I think it will help me maintain a healthy life after.
Sure.
Yes, I do plan on pursuing this sport, and I think it will help me achieve success in my chosen field.
Very nice.
I'm not planning on pursuing a sport in college. I think playing soccer will affect my future positively because it has good exercise and, you know.
Do you feel like Bo Jackson's quote, "Set your goals high and don't stop till you get there," applies to you?
I think so, because I think it's important to have like high goals in your life that you can try to reach. I mean, it's a good quote. It probably should apply to me, but it doesn't really, because if you set your goals too high, then you don't achieve them. It can be kind of sad. So if you set your goals low, then you're happy if you achieve them and you go higher than them. So I think that's a good way to look at life and sports. Yeah, I think maybe it would take me a while to reach these goals, like a very long time. But I think, yeah, it's good to set high standards for yourself, even if you can never achieve them.
Very good. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a nice day.